I first heard the cows screaming at 3:12 a.m. Not mooing. Not bawling. Screaming, a shrill, panicked sound that no animal on earth should be able to make. It yanked me out of sleep so violently that for a second, I thought someone had come into my room and slit my dreams wide open. The Midwest is full of strange noises at night, coyotes, owls, the wind cutting across frozen fields, but nothing like that. Nothing even close. My name's Mason. I'm 24, and I work on a dairy farm that's been in my family for 3 generations. Cows don't frighten easy. They're steady, predictable, stubborn creatures. But that night, something had them losing their minds. I threw on my boots, grabbed my coat, and bolted out the door. The January cold punched me in the lungs. Frost coated the ground like powdered glass, and the barn lights flickered in the distance. The screaming didn't stop. By the time I reached the barn, the air inside was hot and wet with panic, cows slamming against their stalls, hooves clattering, chains rattling so hard the walls shook. The barn smelled wrong too. Not manure or hay. Something sweet and metallic, like old blood and rotting fruit. I clicked on my flashlight. That's when I saw it. Stall 7, the one closest to the grain room, was completely dark. My flashlight beam didn't reach the back of it, which made no sense. Light always bounced off those aluminum walls. "Easy, girls," I murmured, trying to calm them, but my voice shook. Our Holstein, Daisy, should have been in stall 7. She was gentle, predictable, the kind of cow that would walk through fire just because you asked nicely. But the stall was empty. No, not empty. The shadows moved. At first it looked like someone hunched over on all fours, but, wrong. Too long. Too bent. Too low to be a person, too high to be an animal. It twitched as if trying to decide which shape to be. My flashlight flickered. The thing turned. 2 pale eyes reflected the beam, flat and dead like a fish pulled from the river, yet somehow aware. Its body shifted, unfolding upward in jerky, unnatural ways until it almost touched the stall rafters. I stumbled backward, hitting a bucket so hard it clanged across the floor. The sound made the thing freeze. Then, in a motion so fast I barely saw it, it slipped deeper into the shadows, like a shadow folding into a darker one. I wanted to run. Jesus, I wanted to run. But Daisy still wasn't there. I forced myself to move toward the stall. Every instinct in my body screamed to stop. My heart hammered loud enough to drown out the cows. The smell hit me before anything else. Blood. Lots of it. The straw in Daisy's stall was soaked through, thick and dark, steaming in the cold air. Deep gouges raked across the metal wall, too deep for hooves, too high for claws. Something had dragged her out. Something strong enough to move a full-grown dairy cow like a rag doll. "Dad?" I whispered, voice trembling. No answer. Just the wind pushing against the barn siding. I pulled out my phone, but the screen glitched, static lines, flashes of white, like something was interfering with it. I smacked it with my hand, but it only buzzed and shut off completely. Behind me, one of the cows let out another awful, guttural scream. I turned, and every single cow was staring at me. No, not at me, past me. I spun back around. Something stood halfway inside stall 7, long fingers wrapped around the metal bar, pale skin stretched tight over its bones. It was watching me with those dead, reflective eyes. And then it spoke. Not with words. With a sound. A perfect imitation of Daisy's moo. Only deeper. Wet. Like it had pulled the sound from her throat. My vision blurred. My knees nearly gave out. The thing dropped back into the dark in a twitching, jerking motion, then crawled under the stall divider, moving toward the milking parlor. Toward the open doorway leading out into the fields. Taking Daisy with it. For a moment, the barn was dead silent. Then the lights cut out. Pitch black. And in that darkness, where nothing should move, something brushed past my leg, cold, slick, and long enough to drag across both of my boots. I didn't run at first. I couldn't. My body wouldn't move. Then, somewhere outside, something huge let out a low, choking groan. I bolted. I didn't stop running until I reached the house. My chest felt like it was collapsing. My breath came out in clouds of white. Behind me, the barn sat silent and black as a coffin. I locked every door. Every window. And when I finally looked back outside, there were tracks in the snow. Long, dragging marks that led into the woods. And beside them, hoof prints. But not Daisy's. Too big. Too deep. Too wrong. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. And by sunrise, Daisy still hadn't come back. Something was out there. Something that knew how to hide. Something that knew how to mimic voices. Something that had walked into my barn. And taken one of my cows without making a single sound until it wanted me to hear it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that cow's empty neck stump twitching, like it was trying to remember how to breathe without a head. Dawn finally came, pale and cold, washing the farm in a gray that felt too quiet, like everything was holding its breath. Mr. Halpern was already waiting for me in the barn alleyway when I arrived. He never came in this early. He wasn't even dressed for chores. He stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on stall 18, the stall where we found the headless Holstein. "We'll talk later," he said without turning. "Get your work done. And if you see anything strange, you tell me immediately." Strange? We were way past strange. But I nodded and got to work. Anything to keep myself moving. Anything to avoid thinking about what I saw, or what might still be on the property. As I pushed the feed cart down the alley, I noticed something. At first, I thought it was just spilled corn. But when I crouched down, my stomach tightened. Tracks. Small tracks. Deep. Four-toed. And clawed. At first glance, I thought maybe a stray dog had gotten in, but dogs don't walk like that. Their tracks aren't perfectly spaced like something measuring its own steps. And dogs don't leave burn marks around their prints. Yeah. Burn marks. A blackened scorch outline traced each print like something hot, very hot, had pressed into the concrete. I reached out to touch one, but the moment my finger got within an inch, I felt warmth radiating from it. Whatever made these tracks wasn't normal. And it wasn't cold-blooded. The cows sensed it too. They huddled closer together, lowing anxiously, tails swishing. Cows are prey animals, they know when a predator is nearby. But this wasn't a wolf or a mountain lion. They would have behaved differently. This was something else. At around 11 a.m., I went to the silage pit to start the afternoon load. It was quiet, just the wind rustling the tarp. Then I saw them. More tracks. Hundreds. Circling the pit, going around and around, like whatever made them had been pacing, waiting. Some prints were so deep it looked like the creature had jumped down from the wall of the pit hard enough to crack the concrete. Then I noticed something that made my blood turn to ice. The tracks disappeared under the tarp. No. No way. Nothing should be under that tarp. I grabbed the corner, my hands trembling. Slowly, so slowly, I peeled it back. A wave of rotten, moldy, sour air blasted into my face, followed by a sight that made me gag. A tunnel. Something had tunneled into the silage. Not dug, melted its way through. The walls of the tunnel were smooth, glossy, and slightly charred, like they'd been burned by extreme heat. The opening went down deep, almost perfectly cylindrical, leading into darkness that felt hungry.
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
A faint clicking sound echoed from within. No, not one. Several. Like bones tapping against metal. Like teeth chattering in anticipation. My instinct screamed at me to get away. So I backed up, carefully, refusing to turn my back on that hole. That's when I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. I whipped around. And nearly slammed into Mr. Halpern. He was pale, sweating, and breathing like he'd been running. "Jake," he said, voice taut. "Step away from the pit." "You know something's in there," I said. "Something's been in the barn too. And you didn't tell me." He didn't deny it. That terrified me more than anything. "I told you to stay in groups," he whispered. "And what do? You go wandering off alone. What the hell is going on?" He looked past me into the tunnel, jaw clenching. This was not supposed to happen again. Again. Before I could ask anything else, a long, slow, dragging scrape echoed from deep within the pit. Like claws raking through silage. Like something was turning its head toward us. The clicking grew louder. Closer. "We need to go," Halpern hissed. "Now." He grabbed my arm, pulling me away just as something shifted under the tarp. A ripple passed through it, bulging upward as if something enormous slithered just beneath the surface. We ran. We didn't stop until we reached the equipment shed. Halpern slammed the door and locked it, leaning against the wall, shaking. "You're going to tell me everything," I said. He stared at me with hollow, exhausted eyes. "I will," he said. "But first, you need to understand something very clearly." He stepped toward me, voice lowering to a harsh whisper. "It isn't hunting for food." He took a breath. "It's hunting for us." For a long moment, neither of us moved. The shed felt too small, too thin, like the walls were made of paper and something outside was already listening. Halpern's breathing slowly steadied, but mine didn't. My pulse hammered in my neck, and every inch of me felt tuned to some distant vibration, like the creature's clicking never left my ears. I finally found my voice. "What do you mean it's hunting us?" Halpern rubbed his temples as if something behind his eyes hurt. "I didn't want you to be here when this started. It's why I've been short-staffed. Why the other hands quit." "They didn't quit, Jake, they left in the middle of the night without their checks, their clothes, nothing. 2 didn't even take their trucks." That cold sensation spread down my spine again, slow and creeping. "What did they see?" I whispered. "Same thing you did," he said. "Tracks missing cows. Something moving just out of sight." He swallowed hard. "And then, eventually, it came for them." My stomach twisted. "Why didn't you call the police? Or wildlife officers?" He looked at me like I'd told a joke so bad it hurt. "You think something like that can be put in a cage? You think a ranger with a tranquilizer dart would even get close enough?" I had no answer. He continued, quieter now. "Every 30 to 35 years, the ground here opens. Something crawls up looking for warmth, shelter. Food." He paused. "People, Jake. It takes people first. Animals after." His words rattled through me like loose stones. "Why here?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "My grandfather dealt with it in the 50s. My father in the 80s. Always the same pattern. Something kills a few cattle to announce itself. Then it starts stalking the buildings. Watching from tree lines. Testing doors." He took a ragged breath. "The last cycle, a farmhand named Miller disappeared right outside that very silage pit. They found his boot, just the boot, melted into the concrete like candle wax. My legs nearly buckled. And now," he whispered, "it's awake again." Before I could speak, a sound sliced through the silence. A distant, heavy whump, like something large had dropped onto the ground. Then another. Closer. Halpern held up a hand. Don't move. We stood still, listening. Something dragged across gravel outside. A long, slow slide. The shed's tin walls vibrated faintly. Each vibration sank deeper into my bones, like the creature's movement resonated through the ground itself. Then came the clicking. Not faint now. Not distant. It was right outside. Click, 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 click. It circled the shed. Slowly. Deliberately. Like it was tracing its fingers across the metal, memorizing its shape. Then something scraped the wall, a sharp, metallic screech. I slapped my palm over my mouth to muffle my breathing. Halpern's face was pale as skim milk. The creature stopped scratching. Then. Thump. A dent appeared in the wall. Something struck it from the outside. Another thump. Another dent, deeper this time. Dust shook loose from the rafters. It's testing the structure, Halpern whispered. You said it doesn't want cows, I breathed. So what the hell does it want with us? He didn't answer. The clicking rose to a frenzy, rapid, excited, hungry. The shed rattled as the thing pressed against it. I could hear its weight shifting, the metal groaned like it was going to peel open. Then. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. I didn't trust it. Neither did Halpern. We waited. 30 seconds. A minute. 2. Nothing. Halpern slowly unlocked the door, cracking it open just enough to glance out. Gone. He exhaled shakily. We need to go to the house. There's something I have to show you. What if it's out there waiting? He shook his head. It won't attack in the open. It prefers shadows. Corners. Barns, pits, underpasses. His expression tightened. Anywhere it can crawl. We stepped out, scanning every inch of the yard. The gravel was disturbed, warped. As if something heavy had moved over it. But nothing was in sight. We made our way toward the farmhouse, every step feeling like an invitation for something to grab my ankle and drag me into the dirt. Inside, Halpern locked the door behind us and motioned for me to follow him upstairs. At the end of the hallway was an old wooden door I had never seen open before. He produced a brass key, hand trembling, and unlocked it. Inside was a small room. Bare except for a filing cabinet, a dusty window, and a single wooden table with a binder on top. Halpern opened the binder, flipping through brittle, yellowed pages. These are my father's notes. And his father's before him. Everything they documented about the creature. He turned the binder toward me. The first drawing made my skin crawl. A crude sketch of a long, sinuous body. No eyes. A wide, gaping mouth lined with needle teeth. Limbs like jointed hooks. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting. It mimics heat. It mimics sound. It learns. My throat tightened. Learns what? Before Halpern could answer, the house shifted. The floorboards vibrated. The window glass hummed. Then. From downstairs. Click, 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 click. Inside the goddamn house. Halpern's eyes went wide. It's not supposed to come inside, he whispered. Not this soon. The slow sound of something dragging across the floorboards drifted upward. Not fast. Not aggressive. Slow. Confident. Like it already knew exactly where we were. The clicking grew louder as it approached the bottom of the stairs. I felt the steps tremble under its weight. Halpern grabbed my shoulder. Whatever happens, don't run. It reacts to movement. Then the stairwell creaked. Something began to climb. 1 step at a time. The first step groaned under the creature's weight. Not a normal footstep, no heel, no pad, no familiar rhythm. More like something pressing into the wood with uneven, shifting weight, as if its legs weren't meant for stairs. The clicking grew louder, ricocheting through the narrow hallway. Click, 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 click. My throat tightened. Every instinct in me screamed to run, to hide, to dive out the window if I had to. But Halpern's grip on my shoulder was iron strong. "Don't move," he whispered. The second step creaked. My pulse thundered in my ears as I stared at the dark stairwell. I couldn't see it. That was somehow worse. The shadow below seemed to throb with every click, every scrape of claw against wood. "Why is it coming now?" I whispered. "It shouldn't be," Halpern said. "It usually stalks for days before approaching the house." "Usually?" He didn't answer. The third step groaned. The air in the hallway grew warm, uncomfortably warm. Like someone had turned on a space heater behind me. My skin prickled with sweat. The creature radiated heat like a furnace, its presence thick and oppressive. Then it paused. The clicking stopped. The creaking stopped. Even the warmth stopped spreading. It was listening. I clamped my mouth shut. Even my breaths felt too loud. A bead of sweat slid down my forehead, dripping onto the wooden floor. Tap. The creature reacted instantly. The clicking exploded in a rapid frenzy, like dozens of tiny bones snapping in celebration. The stairwell shook. "It heard that," Halpern hissed. It climbed faster now, fourth, fifth, sixth step. The wood trembled as if something impossibly heavy yet disturbingly agile was hauling itself toward us. "We need a barrier," I whispered. "There is none," he said. "If it wants through wood, it melts through it. If it wants through metal, it bends it. So what do we do?" "We wait." "For what?" Before he could answer, the creature reached the top step. Silence. The hallway stretched before us, dim and narrow, lit only by a single dusty bulb. Shadows pooled in the corners like spilled ink. I could feel it just out of sight, so close I could almost hear it breathe. Then, a long, slow, dragging sound scraped across the floor. Something extended into the hallway. A limb. Thin. Pale. Jointed in too many places.
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
Hooked at the end like a twisted finger. It curled around the doorframe, tapping lightly against the wood. Click, click, click. Halpern closed his eyes. "It's probing. Trying to sense movement." I didn't want to see more. But I couldn't tear my gaze away. Another limb slid up beside the first, this one thicker, ending in a melted-looking claw that shimmered faintly with heat. The wood singed where it touched, releasing the acrid smell of char. "It's not fully out of the stairwell," Halpern whispered. "It doesn't reveal itself unless—" He froze. Footsteps sounded outside. Boots on gravel. Someone was walking toward the house. "No," Halpern breathed. "Not now, no one should be here." A truck door slammed. A familiar voice called out. "Mr. Halpern? You home? I got the parts you ordered." It was Lewis, the aging mechanic who did odd jobs around the farm. The creature instantly retracted. The clicking sharpened. Focused. "It's going for him," I hissed. Halpern grabbed me. "If we run down the hallway, it'll kill us before we get 2 steps. If he comes through the front door, he's dead." Lewis knocked again. "Hello? Anyone in there? Your door's unlocked." "No," Halpern whispered. "Don't open it." But the front door creaked. Lewis stepped inside. We heard his boots on the floor just below us. "Hello? Jake? Mr. Hal?" His words cut off with a sharp inhale. Then a wet, meaty thud shook the floor. followed by a gurgling scream. God, help, help. The scream stopped abruptly. The clicking resumed, satisfied. A moment later, something heavy was dragged across the floorboards and down the stairs. Slowly. Leisurely. Like the creature was savoring the weight of its prize. I tasted bile. We could have saved him, I whispered. No, Halpern said hollowly. It would have taken all three of us instead. We stayed still long after the dragging ended. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. Time stopped meaning anything. Finally, when the silence felt stable again, Halpern rose shakily. It won't come back for a while, he said. Once it feeds, it rests. His voice cracked at the last word. We need to go back to the records, he continued. There's something I didn't show you. Something my father never wanted anyone to see. We returned to the small upstairs room. My knees were weak. My palms slick with sweat. Halpern flipped to the back of the binder and pulled out a folded page, one that had been taped shut on all sides. He hesitated. Then slowly peeled it open. Inside was a handwritten note. Not his father's handwriting. Not his grandfather's. It was dated 1954. And at the top, in bold, shaky pen strokes. It is not an animal. The rest of the page was cramped with frantic writing. But one line, halfway down, was circled repeatedly. It mimics heat because it was born from heat. It comes from below. From the old tunnel. Tunnel? I whispered. Halpern's face darkened. It's beneath the fields. My grandfather sealed it off 60 years ago. But why? What's in it? He swallowed. It's where it woke up. A sudden crash echoed outside. Metal twisting. Wood snapping. The barn roof groaning. We rushed to the window. Something enormous was pressing up against the barn walls, testing them. Searching. Looking for another way in. The creature wasn't resting. It was spreading. From the upstairs window, we watched the barn walls bow inward as something shoved against them from outside, or maybe from within. The metal squealed like it was being tortured. Dust shook loose from the rafters. The cows bawled in terror, the kind of sound prey makes when it has accepted it's already dead. It shouldn't be doing this, Halpern whispered again, panic threading his voice. It never spreads this fast. It never explores this early. The barn wall popped, the sheet metal bending out like tinfoil. I grabbed his arm. We can't just stand here and watch. No, he said, backing away from the glass. No, you're right. We can't. He went to the back of the room and opened the filing cabinet with shaking hands. Inside were old maps, rolled and tied with string, yellowed with age. He pulled out the largest one and spread it across the table. It was a hand-drawn layout of the farm, but not the farm as it was now. This map showed the land before the house. Before the barns. Before any of it. A network of lines spiderwebbed beneath the ground. Tunnels. Caverns. Pits. At the center of it all, a jagged circle shaded in black, labeled only with one word in Halpern's grandfather's handwriting. The breach. What is this? I whispered. An iron mine, he said. At least, that's what the government called it back in the 1910s. They tried digging deep shafts here for ore. The ground was weak. Caved in constantly. Workers went missing. He tapped the black circle. And then they broke into something that wasn't supposed to be there. What did they find? No one wrote it down, he said. But the mine closed in weeks. The land was sold cheap. My grandfather bought it and built the farm. And then, something started coming up. Another groan echoed across the yard. We both flinched. We have to go down there, Halpern said. I stared at him. Are you insane? It doesn't stop. His voice cracked. It doesn't just feed and leave. Every cycle it grows bolder. Smarter. If we let it nest again, we won't just lose cows or a hired hand. It'll move toward the town. It'll grow until nothing stops it. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. I've lived through one cycle before, he whispered. I won't live through another. A heavy slam shook the house, the windows rattling in their frames. The creature had abandoned the barn now, and was moving across the yard again. We had minutes. Where is the tunnel entrance? I asked. Halpern pointed to an area on the old map near the silage pit. Your grandfather sealed that, I said. Yes, he said. But seals break. A chill crawled up my neck. It had already melted tunnels through the silage. What else had it melted through underground? Halpern grabbed a lantern, a pry bar, and a shotgun that looked far older than it should still function. That won't kill it, I said. No, he replied. But it might slow it. We moved downstairs as quietly as possible. The floor still had blood streaks where Lewis had been dragged. I tried not to look. Outside, the farmyard was eerily still. The wind had died. The cows had stopped crying. Even the birds were gone. It felt like the whole world was leaning in to watch. We slipped across the yard, staying low, hugging shadows. Halpern motioned for me to stop as he scanned the tree line. 7 seconds of silence passed. Then 8. Then. Click, click, click. Far to the left. It's by the tractors, Halpern whispered. We head right. We jogged toward the silage pit, keeping the feed bunk between us and the creature's clicks. The tarp billowed slightly in the breeze like a lung slowly inhaling. The burned, melted tunnel entrance still yawned beneath it. But now, there was something else. The concrete had cracked in several places, spreading like veins across the ground. At the center was a round metal plate, rusted, bolted down, half submerged in dirt. Is that? I began. Yes, Halpern said grimly. The old mine hatch. The bolts were half melted, sagging like wax. Whatever was beneath had been heating it for years. And now, recently, it had broken through. Halpern jammed the pry bar under the edge and heaved. The hatch groaned open, belching hot, humid air that smelled like iron, mud, and old rot. A deep, black shaft stretched into the earth, its stone walls uneven and scarred. Something dripped from above. Something else shifted below. A faint, distant clicking echoed upward. Get inside, Halpern said. With pleasure, I muttered, because being inside danger felt somehow safer than waiting for it to find us outside.
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
We climbed down an old ladder clinging to the wall. It creaked under our weight but held. The deeper we went, the hotter the air became. Like descending into a kiln. The clicking grew louder. Lantern, Halpern whispered. I flicked it on. The cavern at the bottom stretched wide, its walls seared smooth by heat. Tunnels branched in every direction like the veins of some underground heart. Which one? I asked. I don't know, he said. Then we both heard it. A long, dragging breath. Not from ahead. Not from behind. From above. We looked up. Something clung to the wall near the ceiling of the shaft, limbs splayed like a massive insect, its pale body pulsing with heat. It had been waiting for us. It clicked once. Softly. Almost, pleased. Then it dropped. Run! Halpern roared. We sprinted into one of the tunnels as the creature slammed into the floor behind us, stone cracking like eggshell. The lantern swung wildly in my hand, shadows crawling across the walls like living things. The clicking grew deafening. Closer. Closer. The tunnel split ahead, 3 branches. Left. Halpern shouted. We dove left just as the creature lunged, its hooked limbs scraping the wall inches from my back. The ground trembled beneath us. Deeper in the tunnel, something glowed faintly red. What is that? I gasped. Halpern saw it too, and his eyes widened in horror. That's not a glow, he whispered. That's a furnace. A furnace? The place it was born. The ground ahead pulsed with heat. The tunnel walls shimmered. Something rumbled from deep below, like breath drawn from the lungs of the earth itself. We were running toward the creature's nest. And it was right behind us. The heat grew unbearable as we tore down the tunnel. My lungs screamed, every breath searing. Sweat poured down my face and evaporated instantly. The lantern's glass chimed softly, threatening to crack from the temperature. Behind us, the creature's clicking echoed like a frenzy of bones rattling in a drum. Halpern stumbled. I grabbed his arm before he fell face first onto the glowing stone. It's too hot, he rasped. Then we moved faster. I dragged him forward. The tunnel opened into a cavern so large I couldn't see the far wall. The lantern's light vanished into the shimmering haze. And at the center of that cavern, something pulsed. A pit of molten stone. Breathing. Alive. The earth itself glowed a deep, visceral red, as though a heart beat beneath the crust, each throb sending waves of blistering heat washing over us. The cavern's ceiling was lined with blackened, melted streaks, as if the creature had crawled in and out hundreds of times, reshaping the stone to its will. Halpern stared at the glowing pit with a look of pure dread. This is where my grandfather said they broke through, he whispered. This is where it started. What is it? I asked. He didn't answer. Behind us, the creature's clicking intensified. It skittered into the cavern, limbs hammering the stone in frantic hunger. Now, with the furnace light behind us, we finally saw it clearly. And God help me, I wish we hadn't. Its body was long and stretched thin, pale skin scorched and cracking like overcooked meat. Its limbs were too many, 8 or 9 or more, each ending in a burning, hook-like claw. The head was elongated, jaw unhinged, filled with needle-like teeth that glowed faintly from internal heat. Its movements were wrong. Like a spider. Like a man. Like something that evolved in a world without gravity. The creature paused, sniffing the air, tasting us, savoring the chase. It can't survive far from the heat for long, Halpern whispered. It needs the furnace. It needs this place. So we kill it, I said. With what? He snapped. This shotgun. The creature's red-lit silhouette shivered with pleasure as it clicked slowly across the cavern floor. No, Halpern said. We kill the nest. He pointed to the glowing pit. The furnace, the breach, whatever this is, his voice cracked under the weight of the truth. It's feeding it. Heating it. Keeping it alive. If we can collapse this chamber, seal the breach, we starve the creature. How? I asked. He ran trembling fingers along the cavern wall and found a rusted metal panel embedded there, ancient, half-melted, stamped with the faded emblem of the mining company. Old mining explosive lines, he said. They wired the whole lower chamber when they tried to shut the mine down. My grandfather said the charges were never detonated. Will they still work? We'll find out. He ripped open the panel. Inside, old cloth-wrapped lines ran like veins toward the far walls. A detonator, miraculously intact, sat rusted but recognizable. The creature lowered itself, limbs spread wide, body flat against the rock, ready to pounce. Heat rippled off it in waves. Halpern, hurry. He twisted wires with shaking hands, muttering to himself. Its clicking increased. A hunting rhythm. A countdown. The creature's body contracted, like a spring tightening. Halpern. I screamed. Done, he yelled. The creature launched itself at us. I tackled Halpern aside as the detonator sparked. The cavern erupted. Stone roared like thunder. The ceiling cracked. Molten rock spewed upward like an infernal geyser. The furnace heart shuddered violently, collapsing inward. The creature shrieked, a sound so piercing it felt like my skull was splitting open. Its limbs thrashed, its skin blistering, splitting, igniting in the wash of molten stone. It reached for us. One last, desperate, burning limb. But the collapsing cavern swallowed it whole. The floor beneath us dropped. We scrambled toward the tunnel, rocks raining down like hail. A slab the size of a tractor fell between us and the furnace pit, cutting off the creature's shrieks as the floor buckled inward. Go! Halpern screamed, coughing blood. We ran. The tunnel behind us collapsed, heat blasting at our backs. The ladder came into view, warped, hot, but still there. I shoved Halpern up first, then scrambled behind him. The earth convulsed, shaking violently as if the land itself was trying to spit us out. We burst out of the hatch just as the ground below gave one final lurch. Dust exploded upward. The hatch caved inward with a shriek of tortured metal, sealing itself under tons of shifting earth. Silence. Real silence. Not the creature's deceptive stillness. Not the hum of heat beneath the ground. Just, wind. Cold, sweet wind. We collapsed beside the pit, gasping. Smoke drifted lazily from the earth, but the clicking. God, the clicking. Was gone. Forever, I hoped. Halpern lay on his back, staring at the sky. It's over, he whispered. Is it? I asked. He closed his eyes. For this cycle, yes. We sat there until the sun finally pushed over the horizon, casting warm gold across the ruined yard. The barn was twisted metal. The cows that survived huddled in the far field, silent and trembling. Lewis's truck still sat in the driveway, its door open. But the clicking was gone. The heat beneath the soil was gone. The sense of being watched was gone. Later, Halpern would tell the sheriff the mine collapsed. That seismic activity swallowed half the old silage pit. No one questioned it, this land always had its quirks. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind dies and the fields grow too quiet, I swear I feel the ground tremble. Just once. A faint echo. A memory of a heartbeat beneath the dirt. A reminder. Some things don't stay buried. They wait.
The Silent Screams, the channel of interesting horror stories. If you are new on this channel, then don't forget to subscribe The Silent Screams and press the bell icon for interesting stories.